The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Ladder Safety Setup and Pro Tips, the second webinar in our 2025 National Ladder Safety Month webinar series. My name is Joe Zagrabic, and I'm here from the American Ladder Institute. We are excited to have Eric Blankenship, Senior Product Manager at Werner, lead today's presentation. But before we begin, a few quick announcements. The American Ladder Institute is a not-for-profit association dedicated to promoting the safe use of ladders. Its members are affiliated with the ladder and ladder component manufacturing industry, and ALI is the American National Standards Institute approved developer of ladder safety standards. National Ladder Safety Month, observed in March and spearheaded by the American Ladder Institute, is the only program dedicated exclusively to promoting ladder safety at home and work. This year is the 9th anniversary of National Ladder Safety Month, and we are excited to bring a new series of webinars covering safe ladder use. Partnering with ALI for today's webinar is Werner. Werner actively advocates for ladder safety and accident prevention through their range of innovative product solutions, in-person training, and online educational programs. All attendees will remain muted for the program. At the end of the presentation, attendees can ask questions by typing them in the questions feature. This webinar is being recorded, and we will share the recording with all attendees later this week. With that, I will pass it over to Eric.
Thanks, Joe, and thanks everybody for taking the time to be here today. Like Joe said, my name is Eric Blankenship. I'm from Werner Ladder, and we truly appreciate you guys taking some time today to hear some tips on setup and pro tips for ladder safety. We hope you can bring these back to your job site, and you and your crew can be safe and productive on the job. With that, let's get into it. There we go. All right. So today our agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about ladder safety training, choosing the right ladder, step ladders, extension ladders, and multi-ladders. We'll talk about the finer points of those main three categories of ladders and some accessories that may help keep your ladder safe and productive on the job. So how to choose a ladder. First and foremost, I think we're all here today because we would agree with this statement. Training is key. There's a lot of different ways to make sure that we're making sure that safety is top of mind and safety first on the job site. And, being safe and productive on the job is more than just the equipment. We want to equip ourselves with, safe practices, and training can help, get that out to everybody on your job site. First, on the ladders, there's a lot of information. So you have duty rating and safety and warning labels on various places all over different types of ladders. And I want to showcase a couple different ways you may see that. From Werner, on the left here, you'll see kind of like the current or older way that we've done it, and the majority of ladder manufacturers do it in this way. To make you aware, we are updating a number of our products to our safety icon messaging. So on the right, you will see a new version of what our safety and warnings will look like. So versus the 8-point font on the left, you'll see a lot more icons of do's and don'ts and best practices on how to use your ladder, as well as some other general safety warnings on there. And we hope that that's just going to be a lot easier for more people to actually read these safety warnings on their ladders. You are supposed to read those every time before you use a ladder. And we've done a lot of testing with end users in the field, and the comprehension on these safety icons is a lot higher. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the presentation here. But next, I want to spend a little bit of time on the ID labels, or identification labels. We have a couple examples, a 300-pound or type 1A on the left, or a type 1AA, 375-pound rated duty label here. Both examples, all ladders, from Werner or anybody else, are going to have all of this, standard information on it. Your load capacity and duty rating, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Ladder size, which is going to be different from your maximum reach and your highest standing level. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. Also, you'll see your model number and your ANSI, OSHA, CSA listings if you're in Canada, CSA. will all be listed there. This is all the information that you're going to want to have posted on your ladder to ensure that you're using the correct ladder for the job. Talking a little bit more about the safety icons, like I mentioned previously, they will have do's and don'ts. So you'll see a green checkbox saying, hey, that ladder looks safe, or if you notice any, broken features of your ladder, a red X, do not use that ladder. All of these different safety icons that you're going to start seeing on Werner ladders will be replacing the written instruction labels on the ladder. And we think that this is a really nice system to take on your job site and actually use these for your safety meeting at the beginning of the week or beginning of the day, hopefully. There's a QR code on the top there that you can actually take your phone out. It'll take you to the website. And there are a bunch of different assets on our website. There's very simple videos that explain those do's and don'ts safety icons, as well as a bunch of other assets, including our safety instructions and additional training course that you can actually get certified. ALI offers a bunch of training on their website as well. There are a lot of supportive programs out there to help ensure that you can make your job site as safe as possible, and can really set a strong foundation for safety on your job sites. Once you have that safety training in hand and you're ready to get to work, we still need to make sure we're choosing the right ladder, right? So first and foremost, all ladders come in typically fiberglass or aluminum. Fiberglass is going to be using non-conductive side rails. It's going to be safer for working near electricity. It's allowed to be used working near electricity. They're going to be on most of your commercial job sites. They're going to be mandated to be used. Versus aluminum. Aluminum is not allowed to be used near electricity at all. It's a little bit lighter weight than the fiberglass ladder. And both are great options, but choose the best material for your job site. There are 4 main duty ratings. After you've determined what material your ladder should be made out of, you need to think a little bit more about what duty rating you can use. Now, if you weigh 200 pounds, all of these may look appropriate to you. But we need to think a little bit more about not just your body weight, but also the tools and materials you're using as well. So if you are 200 pounds and you have a tool belt filled with 35 pounds worth of tools, the minimum ladder duty rating that you want to use is a type 1 or 250-pound rated ladder. Some other common materials that you might want to think about, look at the weights of these common materials, anywhere from 20 to 80 pounds. So if you are carrying a 5-gallon, paint bucket, that's 60 pounds, right? If you weigh 200 pounds with a 5-gallon paint bucket, that's 260 pounds. The minimum ladder duty rating you want to use is 300 pounds or an orange ladder. Just something to consider and make sure you're using the right tool for the job, right? After you have determined, the duty rating and the materials, you want to think about the ladder type, right? So the most two common types of ladders out there are step ladders and extension ladders. So number 1, are you indoor or outdoor? Does it need to be freestanding, or do you need to lean against a wall to reach what you are, working on? If you're freestanding and the reach height is less than 18 feet, you're probably going to need to use a step ladder. If you're working on a wall or you need to reach something substantially higher than 15 feet, an extension ladder is what you're going to use. Now, on a step ladder, you can climb it as high as the 2nd step from the top down. So you can see the blue arrow is 1, 2, it's the 2nd step down from the top. And then on an extension ladder, the highest standing point is going to be the 4th rung down from the top, from the tip of the extension ladder. Some things to consider there. maximum reach height, if you choose a step ladder to do your job, you need to consider what size you need to reach that job. So you'll see on our duty rating, the highest reach height. So for example, a 4-foot step ladder, the maximum reach height is going to be 8 feet. And, how do we calculate that? So you go from the highest standing step, and then we take the average reach of the average size person. So the average size person in the US is 5'6", with a 12-inch reach on top of that. That equates out to being 4 feet over the ladder height. So a 4-foot is 8 foot, an 8-foot is 12 foot, a 16-foot ladder, you can reach a 20-foot surface, and it goes up and down the line there. Extension ladders are very similar, except that that highest standing step is 1 rung lower. So on a 16-foot ladder, you can reach 15 feet, or on a 40-foot extension ladder, you can reach 37 feet. And the reason why there's a little bit of a difference there is extension ladders have that overlap, right? So on ladders below 36 foot, we have a 3-rung overlap at its fully extended position. 36 foot and beyond, we do a 4-rung overlap. So it brings down that reach height a little bit more. So on 32 foot and below ladders, you're typically going to be 1 foot shorter than the maximum ladder height. On 36 and above, you'll be 3 feet lower than the maximum height. Also, there's different types of step ladders out there to be aware of, right? So, on a standard step ladder, like we already talked about, you can step as high as the second step from the top, but then there's podiums. So a 6-foot step ladder is equivalent to a 4-foot podium. So, that podium, the benefit of the podium is going to be that you have a larger standing surface, and you're going to have a higher guardrail, which is going to just keep you, that much safer on the job. It's also going to stop, people from climbing too high, because there's no additional rungs to maybe, keep going when you shouldn't. The podium offers a more comfortable and safer experience up there on top of the ladder. But they offer the same max reach height. They're equivalent to each other, but a podium, ladder, we call that a 4-foot podium, is the same as a 6-foot step ladder. Other types of ladders out there that you can treat very similarly to a step ladder would be a leaning ladder. So at Werner, we call these lean safe ladders. And if you open them up like a step ladder, you treat them just like a step ladder, right? But you're not allowed to use a normal step ladder against the wall. You can't lean a step ladder in the closed position against a wall and climb it unless you have rounded feet on the bottom, which will account for the leaning of the ladder. And then critically, we need to have a locking rear section. So the rear section will clip into the front section of the ladder to ensure that it doesn't, slip forward, and, it can actually, knock a ladder against the wall and cause somebody to fall off the ladder. We don't want that. And then at the top of the ladder, all Werner lean safe ladders will have non-marring traction pads, and they're designed to work on studs, flat surfaces, inside corners and outside corners. And a lean safe ladder, you see these mandated on a lot of commercial jobs, because this is one of the most common infractions out there, is you'll see people leaning a non-leaning step ladder to get the job done. And you see a lot of job sites saying, well, you know what, we can't stop them from doing it, or we're having to write too many citations for this, so we're just bringing in the lean safe ladders, and they're actually designed to be safe to lean. So that's a nice addition to your job site, but something to be aware of. That you may see, and it is allowed to lean. Once you have determined, the type of ladder, the type of material it's made out of, and the duty rating, the first thing you want to do is, make sure it's safe. Every time you climb your ladder, you should be inspecting it to ensure it's safe. And a best practice is to do a formal inspection at least once a year to ensure that your ladder is safe, if not more often. And we offer inspection forms on our website to help you document this. You can check that ladder off and make sure that everything is safe on that ladder. We have a video on our website to show you how to inspect ladders as well if you have any questions to that. But really, you want to go through that ladder and make sure that all the rivets are in place and tight. There's no cracks in any of the plastic components, the metal or the fiberglass. There's no dents in the rungs or anything like that. Nothing's broken or falling off. And if it meets your inspection, you're good to go. And then having this on file is a nice thing to have to just make sure everybody knows that that ladder is safe. And we have that for all types of ladders, steps and extensions, to trestle ladders and everything in between. So that is, the basics of how to choose a ladder and how to make sure you're safe with your ladder as you're going to work. Let's talk about some of the finer points of step ladders. So as we just talked about, after you're done inspecting that ladder and you're ready to go to work, it's pretty simple. We've all done this a million times, but you take your step ladder to the job site. Apologies for that, thought I'd turn that off. You take your step ladder to the job site, you open it up, and you're ready to work, right? We need to first make sure that our spreaders are completely pushed down. Too often on the jobs do we see spreaders that are not completely opened and in the locked position. Press them down, give them a nice push down, make sure they're in the locked position and that they're, you're going to be safe when you climb. If you don't do this, what can happen is as you're climbing up the ladder, it can, unexpectedly, go into the open position on you and, kind of jar you and hopefully it doesn't cause an accident. But that's what we want to avoid. Making sure that spreader is completely down in the locked position will avoid a lot of headaches in the future. And then also ensure that you are setting your ladder up on a flat, clean surface. Here in the picture, you can see that, the ladder's set up over an extension cord. Well, what if somebody pulls that extension cord and, it pulls your ladder out at the wrong time? If you're walking up the ladder and that also, that extension cord gets pulled underneath the foot as you're climbing it, who knows what could happen? We want to avoid that and other things like that as much as possible. You're not allowed to shim your ladders. We need to make sure you're on a flat, solid surface wherever you're setting your ladder up. So we're stuck here, 1 second. All right. On Werner ladders and many other ladder manufacturers out there, there's, always place to store tools and materials on the top of your step ladders. Werner actually offers our lock top accessories on top of that. So not only can you put your drill or impact driver into the top, and your clines or your paint tray, anything like that. We have those 2 slots on the front there where you can put a tool bucket or anything like that to help ensure that you are safe. Also, you'll notice that we do have spots for lanyards where you can put drop protection. You can see it right there on the impact driver, and it can stop a tool from falling off the top of the ladder there. Definitely a best practice, and a lot of job sites are starting to require that on the job. So Werner ladders are compatible with that as a requirement. Some more of those accessories that are available to help you stay safe and productive at the top of your ladder. For example, we have pail shelves for ladders that don't come with them. Probably about half the ladders we make come with a built-in pail shelf. Some ladders do not, and if it doesn't, we have one that you can install. There's nice paint cups, and we have paint cup liners that make it a lot more convenient as you're painting at the top of the ladder. Our job bucket is very, just really helps you get the job done. You can bring a lot up with you, stay organized, and really helps increase your productivity. And I already mentioned the tool tether. You can lock that into your power tools and prevent a drop from happening on the job, which is great. Looking a little bit closer at extension ladders. Extension ladders are a little trickier than setting up a step ladder, right? Step ladder is simple. Make sure it's completely open and the spreaders are in the locked position and you're on flat ground. Extension ladders definitely have a lot more variables, typically being used outside, and they're a lot larger and more difficult to handle. Definitely pay attention to the OSHA 50-pound lift rule. If item is over 50 pounds, OSHA mandates that you have 2 people carrying it. Some job sites actually will mandate lower than that. I've seen 40 and 30-pound job sites out there. So definitely make sure you're being safe to avoid injury out there when you're carrying heavy ladders around. But then when you are ready to set it up, when you're at the place where you're getting ready to work, it's always best practice to put the feet down near the wall and then pick up the tips. And you can see how the gentleman on the left is kind of doing the monkey bars and pushing that ladder up to the wall, right? That's a very safe way to work, smarter, not harder. As you get the ladder vertical up against the wall, then you can pick up the feet and tip it back, or pull it back rather. And then you pull the rope and you can extend the ladder up to the surface you're trying to gain access to. Couple points about that. I'll keep at the extension portion here. I always like to make sure that the toes of my boots are down into the feet of the ladder. It kind of blocks the ladder from sliding out. Make sure you have, your non-dominant hand holding the base of the ladder. We have the base is the back section and the fly is what we call the front section. And then, you extend the rope and go up, a couple rungs at a time, whatever you're comfortable with. And then you want to ensure that you are 3 rungs above the roof line if you're trying to gain access to the roof line. The #1 OSHA citation out there is, gaining access to a roof with a ladder that's not long enough. So here with this ladder, you can see you're about probably 4.5 feet over the roof line there, which is great. If you just had the tips up on the roof line there and you wanted to just kind of hop off the ladder onto the roof, #1, that's not very safe at all. You don't have enough support to confidently gain access to that roof, and you're much more likely to kick that ladder back out from underneath you. We want to avoid that as much as possible. Having that ladder 3 feet above the roof line really gives you, the ability to get up to that 4th rung, hanging on to the ladder tips while you can step off confidently onto the roof. Once you have the ladder set up, where you think you're ready to climb, you want to ensure that you're at this proper 75.5 degree climbing angle. So you'll hear this referred to as the 4-to-1 rule or the fireman's rule. The best way to do this is you can see the gentleman there. He's got the tips of his toes, tips of his boots on the feet of the ladder. And then you stick your arms out in front of you and you grab the rung in front of your shoulders. And you want that rung to be hitting right at your palms. If the rung is hitting at your fingertips, that means that the ladder is too far away from you. That means that the ladder is set up too shallow. That's, I think, probably really common. I think people set up their ladders too shallow because it maybe seems a little, less scary. It's not as steep looking, but you really have a greater opportunity of the feet slipping out. ANSI and all the ladder manufacturers have done a lot of testing and have ensured that 75.5 degrees is the safest angle for setting a ladder up, where the force of your body climbing up the ladder is transferred down to the ground most effectively, and the feet are designed to support that and won't slip out. If the ladder is too far away from you and you're shallow, the feet will have a higher chance, higher likelihood of sliding out, and we want to avoid that. If the rung is coming past your palm and hitting you in the wrist, it's less common, but it can happen in tight areas. That means the ladder is set up too steep. Having a ladder that's set up too steep, not only is it a little extra scary to climb up there, but you're more likely to, have that ladder lean back and the tips come away from the wall on you. We want to avoid that. That'd be a really bad day for anybody climbing. After you've ensured that your ladder is set up at the appropriate angle, you really want to double check that your locks are completely engaged. The gravity locks, you have 2 on either side, usually the 3rd rung up from the bottom of the fly, and you want to make sure that the rungs are lined up parallel with each other in the overlap. You can see here in the picture, the last picture, where the rung is engaged with the lock and the rungs are parallel to each other. You can also kind of see that in the middle picture as well. You can really confirm that those rungs are parallel with each other, and you want to make sure that your ladder is locked before you climb it. All right, after your ladder is, set up correctly, you have the right angle, you're as high as you need to be to gain access, you'll definitely want to consider, are you on a hard surface? Are you on the soft earth? If you're on a hard surface, you're going to want to use the non-slip pads on the bottom of your feet. If you're on, a soft earth, or you'll hear it referred to as penetrable surface, you can kick the feet up into the toe pick position, and those feet will dig down into the earth for you. It's always best practice to tie off your extension ladder as well. You can stake and tie off at the bottom of the ladder, and as you get to the top for the first time, you can tie off to the roof line as well. This is best practice to ensure that your ladder is going to be safe throughout the course of the work you need to get done, and not required by OSHA, but highly encouraged. Another thing to consider as you set up an extension ladder, again, you're typically going to be off-road when you're using an extension ladder, and there's a lot of unlevel surfaces that you're going to run into. We don't want to climb a ladder that is not level. You can see on the left there. The ladder is going to tip over to the left in this instance. You are not allowed to shim a ladder. All too often do I see scrap wood or bricks or cinder blocks on a job site. You're number one, not allowed to shim a ladder. Number two, it's really not very safe. You can see how that pile of wood is about to kick out from the bottom of the ladder there. We want to avoid that at all costs. I've seen people actually cut shims and make little wedges to level out a ladder. Again, not allowed by OSHA, definitely not a safe practice. You don't want to trust that. So at the very least, you need to dig out and make sure that you're on a level surface. Or there are a number of different types of mechanical levelers available in the market that can make this process easier and more confidence-inspiring. Werner, actually just last year, we launched a new leveler called Level Safe Pro. This is the first leveler made by Werner for Werner. It automatically levels to the surface up to about a 30-degree grade, 8.5 inches on either side automatically, which is great. And then kind of a new to the world feature is it allows you to micro adjust as well. So in the top right picture there, you can see the handles in the up position. There's a bubble level that's installed on the 7th rung, and you can confirm that you're level, and you can adjust that by just moving the tips back and forth and making sure that you're as level as possible. This is made by Werner for Werner and is designed for most Werner extension ladders, 225 to 375 pound rated. It's easy to install, easy to control, and easy to level. Some other accessories that'll help you stay safe on the job. We have our ladder stability anchor. If you have any sort of fascia board or something like that to attach to, it's amazing the difference that this will make on your ladder and really increase the stability as you climb. It's also non-penetrative as well. So if you're doing any roofing applications, and you don't want to put holes into any membrane or anything like that, this is a really nice option. Then, we were talking earlier about ensuring that your ladder is 3 rungs above the roof line to gain access. Our walkthrough accessory slides onto Werner extension ladders and extends the reach of your ladder actually by 3 feet. Also, it has non-slip pads on the back of the walkthrough there, so it'll actually stick onto, especially going up onto a metal building, it really provides a lot more traction. And it also, I think, gives the guys a point to aim to, so they know exactly where they need to set that ladder up to be safe. And when you're walking off the ladder onto the roof, you go right through the center of those bull horns, and it's so much more confidence-inspiring than having to, step around the ladder. It's a really great accessory. And there's a number of other accessories. These are only a few, but probably the most common extension ladder accessory you'll see out there is a stabilizer. Our AC78 here on the right It is a tool-free, easy to connect stabilizer that you can put on the top of your extension ladder. It provides you a lot more stability when you're working on a wall, and helps you work around obstacles like windows in this case as well. A couple other things just to be aware of, again, work harder, not smarter. Ladder jacks are, going to be, helping out a lot of people, not just painters. But when you're working on any exterior application, a ladder jack with 2 ladder jacks, 2 extension ladders, and a plank can really help make your job go a lot faster. All right, the next big category of ladders we want to talk about is multi-ladders. Multi-ladders are really useful tools in the right job site. They are a little bit of an extension ladder. They're a little bit of an A-frame ladder. They work in so many different ways. They're great. You can use them as a wall ladder to get closer to the wall. Where I really like them a lot is being able to use them in stairwells. You can set these up in stairwells to be able to, paint or, do any finishing work in a stairwell, which is great. And you can use them as a scaffolding base. Very, very useful tools. They are available in fiberglass and aluminum. So, aluminum is going to be more common, but if you're doing any sort of electrical work, our fiberglass multi-ladders are available as well. Putting up, chandeliers or anything like that in a stairwell, a fiberglass MT will be worth its weight in gold. The ladder heights for an MT or for an MT in the extension or step ladder modes all apply. The reach heights will still apply just like a standard step ladder or an extension ladder. You can install a leveler on an MT. So like our PK70 from Level Lock, this will work on our 300-pound MTs. Another interesting thing about Werner MTs is you can take the top of the MT out and use it as a second ladder and connect the base with the J-locks. And this is just one MT ladder that's been separated and combined here with the J-locks to be able to support a plank at the base. And then you can see this is our 10-foot extendable base, and it is tied off. You want to, extend 6 inches and tie off both sides, and you have created yourself a really nice working platform there. So with that, we've gone through the basics of steps, extensions, and MTs, and I think we'll open it up for Q&A at this point.
Thank you, Eric. Yep, you guys can, if you have any questions, you can type them into the question feature. There are a couple that came in during the presentation, so we'll just get started with the first one. Is that, can you work from any step of a podium ladder?
Yeah, great question. We hear this pretty regularly. You can step down just like a step ladder. So, just like a step ladder, you can only go up from the second step down from the top. That's where the podium platform is. You can step down from that podium platform and work from a step or 2 down. But, just something to be aware of is that platform and the guardrail of the ladder may be in your way. That is the Werner recommendation. Of course, always listen to the best safety practices on your job site.
Great. How do you make fiberglass ladders last longer?
Yeah, so this person's probably referring to fiberglass ladders, kind of what we call blooming. Probably most of us have experienced this in the past, where an older ladder that probably lives on the top of a van, baking in the sun. It probably used to be orange or yellow, and it's probably turning white. And, fiberglass is, there's fiberglass strands, and it's all held together by a resin. And that resin can get degraded over time by the UV light from the sun. So if your ladders are going to be outside predominantly, living on the top of a van or on a job site, right, this will happen naturally over time. It'll happen a little bit different in Chicago, where I'm at, versus Arizona or wherever you're at. Or if your van, sometimes is in a garage or something like that, the more UV it gets, the faster that can happen. We call that fiber blooming, when the fiber comes out a little bit past the resin. And you'll know when it happens, because you'll feel it in your hand. We test those ladders. They meet all the ANSI standards. There's no strength issue as long as there's not another issue. So you definitely, do a full inspection of that ladder and ensure that it's safe. If it is safe, I know a lot of people will say that ladder's lived a good life at that point and it's time to get a replacement. You can recoat it with an acrylic lacquer at that point if you want to. That'll cover up the fiberglass and stop it from getting in your hands. It takes a little bit of time. Make sure you don't get it on the rungs. We definitely don't want to paint over your rungs and create a slipping hazard. Another thing, though, that does really add a lot of time is just making sure that if you get any chemicals on your ladder, like acetone or anything like that, wash it off as quickly as possible. And when your ladder is clean, you can actually, wax it, and it has a similar effect to, sunscreen, right? It blocks that UV a little bit. And using something like Johnson's paste wax, something like that, you can put that on just the fiberglass of your ladder, and it'll, stop that UV from working as fast as it can.
Thank you. There's a lot of questions coming. Another one is, what happens if the label on my ladder has faded or been scraped off?
Yeah, so OSHA requires that all the safety warning labels and ID labels are present and visible on your job site. I'm sorry, on your ladder. And if they've been scraped off, you can call our customer care team, and they'll be able to get you a replacement.
And then this person's asking, how many feet does a ladder have to be from the base of a house? So maybe that's more of the 4-to-1 rule.
That's the 4-to-1 rule, exactly. Yeah. So from the base of the house, so if you're trying to get to the top of a 20-foot house, and let's say you're going 23 feet over the edge there. So what would that be? That'd be roughly like 5 or 6 feet away from the base of the house. But every ladder, every situation will be slightly different. Make sure if you put the tips of your boots on the feet of that ladder, and you put your arms out, you want your straight arms to hit the rung of the ladder in the palm, and that's a good test.
What is the duty rating of the level safe leveler?
Yeah, so all levelers, just not level safe, will typically match they'll always match the duty rating of the ladder that they are safe to go on. So, whether it's a level lock leveler or the Werner level safe, if it is, if it's been qualified to be on that ladder, if it's a 300-pound ladder, it's a 300-pound leveler that goes with it. You are not, as a ladder user, you're not allowed to modify a ladder, but you are allowed to install accessories that the manufacturer says that, you're allowed to, and provided instructions to show you how to do that. And if the ladder is qualified for that accessory, the accessory matches the duty rating of that leveler.
Let's see what else is in here. Does an extension ladder need to be tied off at the top when using a stabilizer?
So if you're using a stabilizer, you typically wouldn't be going to the top. You'd be typically working on a wall. So with the stabilizers we provide, they're really only designed to be working on a wall, and you probably wouldn't be able to tie off. And it's always just a best practice to tie off. It's not a requirement unless the GC forces you to find a way to tie off. You might have to put like a roof anchor or something into the surface to tie off too. There are other stabilizers out there from other companies I've seen that are designed to go over the roof edge. And if you have the opportunity to tie off, we always recommend that you do.
Another person's asking, will the walk-through accessory support the ladder if it's against a wall?
The walk-through is really designed to gain access to the next level. If you are working against a wall, we recommend taking the walk-through accessory off the ladder. It's a tool-free installation. It's not a permanent installation. There's 2 clamps. Let me go back a couple slides so everybody can see that. So you can see here these 2 squeezing clamps on either side. It's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. and you're able to slide this off and on the top of your ladder. If you're going over the edge to get onto the roof, I would use my walkthrough. If you are working on the wall, I would remove it before you set the ladder up.
Perfect. And there's some more people in here asking about this webinar and it being recorded. Yes, it is being recorded and it will be posted on the Ladder Safety Month website, as well as it will be emailed out to everyone once it's live. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today and to Eric for sharing his expertise with us. We hope you have enjoyed today's webinar, Ladder Safety, Setup and Pro Tips. You can find the recording of each webinar in this series online at laddersafetymonth.com, along with additional safety resources. Thank you again to Werner for sponsoring today's webinar and to all of you for joining us and being so engaged throughout National Ladder Safety Month. Thank you and have a great day.